Colorado's Week 3 matchup against Colorado State is the biggest game of Deion Sanders' coaching career, and there's no room for error.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so that way you can stay up to date on all things Colorado. Let's talk about it. I talked about this game yesterday, and I said it's a statement game because Colorado State, that is the Rocky Mountain Showdown. Colorado's a 7-point favorite. They're 1-1 on the year. Both teams are. And they have not, Colorado, that is, has not looked convincing at all in their first two games. In fact, I'm more concerned about them now than I was during their losing streak. Let's just put it that way. Last year, I was more concerned about them now than I was last year because they were supposed to have brought in so many upgrades. They made coaching upgrades. They made player upgrades, right? On paper, this team looked really good, but on the field, not so good. And so I was listening to someone who I think has a really good pulse of the program, as well as I do, is Joel Klatt, former Colorado quarterback. And he said, and it took me like a moment to register this because it was like, wow, this is true. He said, can we pause for a moment and think about how big this game is for Colorado and Coach Prime? This is unequivocally the biggest game that Colorado has had since Coach Prime has gotten here because they cannot lose this game. If they lose this game, where do you go from here? This would be a sign of regression in the second year. If you just frame it like that, you understand the urgency that Colorado is going to have in this game. They have to win, and they're going up into an environment that's going to be very difficult to do that. Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely correct. I look at this game, right? And last year, Colorado came in as, I want to say, around 20-ish point favorites. They were monster favorites against this Colorado State team last year, and they needed double overtime to beat them. And it was one of those things where it's like, it's just a rivalry game. It happens. It's one of those things where rivalry games are always expected to be really close. So it's like when a team escapes, it's like, it's a rivalry game. You know, like we should have known. We can't expect the line to ever be right in a rivalry game. Like it's usually going to come down to the final waning moments. But if you look at, I'm on ESPN right now, looking at the line from last year, Colorado were 24.5 point favorites, and they needed double overtime to win that game. And the defense was the problem. The defense was terrible. Travis Hunter goes out with an injury early, and Tory Horton was just eating that defense alive over the middle. They just lived and died by the crossing routes, and we all know that's probably what they're going to do again because Colorado hasn't shown the ability to stop them. So let's talk about why this game is so important. Realistically, is it fair for a head coach in their second year to have this much pressure on them? Probably not. But at the same time, there hasn't been a head coach that draws the magnitude of attention, that draws sort of the energy that Deion Sanders does. And so I say this all the time. It's not fair to sort of assess Colorado based on what Coach Prime says. But at the same time, when he's purposely using roster building methods that have never been used before, and despite the fact that history shows us to win a title, you need to recruit at an elite level. That's what history shows us. Every title team since 2012 has had 50% of their roster be 4- or 5-star recruits that they recruited. Now, obviously, the transfer portal wasn't around for all that time, but it's been around for the past few years, and it still stands. Like the teams that are winning titles are the teams that reach that have that minimum threshold. Despite knowing that, Coach Prime still went into the transfer portal. Despite seeing how rough it got last year, he went back into the transfer portal. It's kind of his way or the highway. And then there's also this notion that he's leaving as soon as his sons leave. And he said that that's not the case. But again, no one knows until it happens. Like no one will actually know what Coach Prime is doing until Shiloh, Shador, and then obviously Travis Hunter leave for the NFL. Because is he going to want to stick around at a program that's struggling? And he has no family there. Well, he has family there, but his sons aren't there. because he got into coaching around the same time as his son's. Shiloh's already in college, but Shador was getting ready to go into college. So he got into coaching around the same time as his sons. So is he going to be as dedicated to coaching if his sons aren't there, right? So that's one reason, right? This game is just Colorado State is not a good team, right? They're a middle of the pack Mountain West team, now Pac-12 team, actually, because as you guys probably saw this morning, the Pac-12 is expanding and they added Colorado State. But right now, they're a middle of the pack Mountain West team. I almost want to say Pac-12 again. And they just haven't really looked that good. They got blown out by Texas 52-0, which Texas is probably the best team in college football. And then they played Northern Colorado, probably too close for comfort. And so it's like, what are we going to learn from this game, right? Like, this reminds me of the North Dakota State game in a way where I knew going into that game, regardless of what Colorado did, it would not be acceptable. But that's how I feel about this game now, because Colorado looks so poor against Nebraska. It just triggered all of these like flashbacks of last year where I was like, oh, the offensive line looks terrible. Oh, the team can't tackle. Oh, they're giving up big plays. The defense is doing this. The offense is under Pat Shurmur. The offense is looking pathetic. And I have the numbers to really show you guys how bad Pat Shurmur, this offense has been. I have I wanted to pull it up. I have the numbers to show you how bad the offense has been under Pat Shurmur compared to last year. Like, if Colorado loses to a middle of the pack Mountain West team, I think that just sets the tone for the rest of the season that Colorado is not going to be a good football team. Like, my prediction of them going 7-5, I think we'd probably have to flip that and go 5-7. Like, that's how catastrophic this loss would be, because this is right now on their schedule the most winnable game, I think. Like, I think Cincinnati and Texas Tech are both bad football teams. But again, Colorado, we won't know until we get there. But if Colorado is barely skating by FCS programs, which, I mean, granted, it's one of the best, and they're getting beat down by a Nebraska team that's led by a freshman quarterback, and then they lose to a group of 5 team that's middle of the pack Mountain West at best, this team is probably going to flop. Like, that's what it comes down to. And I think that's what Joel Klatt's hinting at, is like, if they lose, there's really no sort of – it's hard to have a belief in them. Like, it's hard to believe in this team if they fall on their face right here. If they win, and they win convincingly, that's great. That's a statement game. That's what I talked about yesterday. If they win this game convincingly, the noise dies down for 1 week, right? Until they play Baylor, until they sort of have to get into the nitty-gritty of their schedule. But the noise will die down. But they have not looked good in these past 2 weeks. And let's just talk about it, right? Because I think the main thing that Joel Klatt is hitting on here is the lack of improvement that we're seeing. Because if anything, they've regressed on offense. Sean Lewis took over this program. Sean Lewis took over this offense last year as a coach who was already a head coach. He was viewed as one of the most intriguing offensive minds in college football. Brought this fast-paced offense. That's what Colorado wanted to do. And all of a sudden, things were going well at first. But then once they got to playing more physical teams, they got torn apart. And Colorado got torn apart by a physical team last week. And I think what we're learning is, which, I mean, there's still a lot of time there's a lot of time for things to be corrected, but I think we're learning how difficult it is to sort of just group together 5 guys and be like, okay, go be a great offensive line. Like, for instance, Oregon replaced 2 offensive linemen from last year. They only replaced 2. Last season, they gave up 5 sacks all year. This season, through 2 games, they've given up 7. And they've played Idaho and Boise State. Neither of those teams should be giving Oregon trouble. Like, it is what it is. And so for Colorado to think that they're going to throw together 5 guys again and make it work, I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see if these guys can develop down the stretch. But we're talking about making changes already. So the unit that doesn't have chemistry already is already being changed up. So let's talk about – sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. Let's talk about the offense under Pat Shurmur compared to Sean Lewis. So last year, through the first 2 games, Colorado was 2-0, obviously. And total yards per game, they were averaging 504. and it was 445 passing yards and then 59 rush yards, right? So 445 plus 59, or they weren't averaging. I think that was the how many yards they accumulated. So total yards. So they had total yards of offense through 2 games, 504. Total yards of offense through 2 games this year, 260. 244 passing yards, right? And then 16 rushing yards. So not great. Oh, I totally butchered this. Let me restart. So this is week 1 and week 2. Sorry, I confused my own stat. So week 1 to week 2, total yards this year 260. Last year 504. Last year passing yards from week 1, not great. They have fallen off. Like, you look at this Colorado team, and Shedeur Sanders threw for, and we'll just go game by game, I guess, because obviously this was week 1, week 2, not a comparison, but still, I totally butchered that. That's on me. But Shedeur threw for 445 yards against North Dakota State, and then 244 against Nebraska. Then rushing yards, they had 59 against North Dakota State, 16 against Nebraska. So, like I said, they have gotten worse in their 2 weeks, and I'm again apologize for butchering my own reading. I thought I went back and forth, but they looked worse against a Nebraska team that is last year was a sub 500 team. Now, granted, they're a much improved team, but it's like, what does it mean if when you play better competition, your offense just totally collapses, right? Like, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are the key to all of this team's success. And if those 2 guys are silenced or diminished in their roles, it makes life hard for this team because the defense hasn't shown that they could rush the passer. The run game, which honestly I think this is on the coaching staff as well, the run game is not utilized properly. We can't even say they don't have a good run game because we don't see them try to use their run game. So this Colorado team just has to prove a lot of things. They have to prove, 1, they could get to the quarterback. 2, they can establish a run. 3, they can beat teams that they're supposed to beat, right? This is a winnable game, and it's not just a winnable game. This is a game they should win. And 4, they have to show that they don't get rattled. They looked rattled as all could be against Nebraska. I think me and Scott Proctor talked about it when he was on the show earlier this week. The game looked over after Shedeur Sanders threw that pick 6, and that was in the first quarter. Like, the team just looked flat. They looked shocked. They looked rattled. And this team cannot, like, they just can't be that mentally weak. We talked about all offseason. I talked about this specifically. I said, if this Colorado team is mentally weak, they will struggle. That was one of their biggest issues last year. I think the Stanford loss last year really broke them mentally and emotionally. They blew a 29-point lead. Then they went on the bye week after. Not that that's their choice. It's just how their schedule worked out. And they were not the same again. They lost every game after that, right? So it's like, what are they supposed to do if that happens again? Like, if you lose a game, like they lost a game last week against Nebraska, they look terrible. You need to bounce back. That game cannot define your season. And now they lose Shiloh Sanders, who's a leader on defense. I'm legitimately worried for this team. And if Deion Sanders' Colorado squad loses this game, it will get ugly on social media. And it's not fair, but it's going to be brutal because this Colorado team is literally, I would say, on the ropes right now. And they need to win this game about as bad as I've ever seen someone need to beat a group of 5 team. If Deion Sanders, if his team loses this game, there's going to be a lot of talks about him on the hot seat. There's going to be a lot of talks about, and again, not fair, I know, but that's just how, that's the Deion Sanders treatment, right? He's the most famous coach in college football. So with that fame, he gets unfair, or I guess premature criticism, right? He's not going to be able to get 5 years to figure things out, at least in the public's eyes. So he's going to be on the hot seat if they lose. He's going to be, people are going to be like, is Shedeur and Travis, are they just going to sit out for the rest of the year? What's the point of playing? Like, we're going to enter those discussions. That's how bad it's going to be if they lose this game. If they win this game, like I said earlier, which I think they're going to win this game by 2 scores, or they should at least, then all the pressure dies down for a week or so. So Colorado, very big game. I think Deion Sanders this may be the most pressure he's ever been in of his coaching career. Like, we'll just have to call a spade a spade. When we come back, Colorado State is giving them the fuel to beat them. Will Colorado take advantage? This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Factor Meals. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes, so no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new health routine. What are you waiting for? They have 35 different meals with more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, and you'll always have new flavors to explore. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Keep the kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage your calories, maximize protein intake, and avoid meat, or simply eat a well-balanced diet. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is still active. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of Sunday. September 15th pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting September 12th. And view your account page now to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. It's FanDuel. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, this Colorado team, they're going to be tested, right? Their offense looks worse than last year. The offense looked worse last week than it did in week 2 by a lot. The run game's not there. Their defense ranks 97th in the country. This Colorado State team has one of the worst defenses in the country. So if they can't get it going against them, who will they get it going against is the question here. Let's talk about what they said. Colorado State did not. I talked about them yesterday. I kind of gave them credit. I was like, you know what? Colorado State doing their best to make sure that they don't really say a lot of things about Colorado. They were, obviously, we had the Jay Norvell incident last year with the glasses where he said he was raised right, or he said he wasn't raised right, but he was raised to Deion Sanders wears glasses when he gosh, like give me a break, right? Well, Deion Sanders took that personally. Colorado made it like their thing, where it's like, you made it personal, you did this, and now we're gonna beat you. And I think Colorado got too dependent off people making it personal last year, or they just had too much dip on their chip early. I don't know what happened last year. They collapsed though. And teams stopped talking a lot of smack about them. And so then heading into this year, I thought Colorado, like Nebraska did it, they were cordial. I thought Colorado State was going to be cordial, but they weren't. Tory Horton and quarterback Brayden Fowler were talking to Romy Bean of CBS Colorado. And they got a bit something that's been sitting on everybody's minds. We came back. We owe them one, and we walked away from that game as we kind of left it on the field. I don't feel like we left it all on the field because we should have murdered them, guys. They came out with the attitude as they were on top of the world, and this ain't no Cinderella story. We're coming for revenge. That's what he said. And then the quarterback said they came out with that attitude and thought it was going to be a cakewalk. They saw the reports, 27.5 points or whatever it was, and they got a rude awakening real quick. And I think it goes to show that the hype, the media train, all that, it only gets you so far at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you have to line up 11 guys against our 11 guys. We'll find out who wants it more. We'll see how far Instagram followers gets them. And that is a bold statement to make for this Colorado State team. If Colorado wasn't motivated enough by sort of the humiliation of the Nebraska loss, the pressure of this sort of being the biggest game of Coach Prime's tenure, right? This should do it. This is what did it for them last year. They did it against TCU. They kept receipts of all the people saying that they couldn't win. Nebraska, there was the transfer portal thing from Matt Rule, and then the pregame stuff on the 50-yard line. And then Colorado State, it was the Jay Norvell stuff, and Coach Prime had his mom come talk to him and talk about how she raised her son right, and he said he didn't. And this is your motivation, Colorado. If that's what it takes for you to get fired up and win a college football game, because apparently not showing up and playing each week doesn't get you fired up enough because Colorado starts extremely slow each week. This should do it. I think this is a comments, that these two guys made that could really end up coming to bite them in the you-know-what. And for Colorado, take advantage, right? This is your moment. I know people are going to say this is a group of 5 team and like the win doesn't count. When you're Colorado and you need to make a statement, I think the win counts. I think they need to make a statement for themselves. I don't know how much the national media is going to care or give them, or fan bases are going to give them respect for beating Colorado State, but they need this in that locker room. I know they do. And it's just one of those things where you look at this Colorado State team and they are badly trying to make this. They're trying to be like the little brother that shows everybody like, hey, we can do this. Like, we're going to talk our talk and then back it up. And we're going to see if it works out for them. I don't think it will. But, I mean, they're surely confident, right? They smell blood in the water, as do most people around college football. So, Colorado, you need to step the hell up. Otherwise, you will be embarrassed on national television. This game's on CBS. And that's the last thing you want, right? You can't fall to 1-2 on this season. You just can't. And these guys just gave you the fuel and the motivation to make sure you don't. So take advantage of it. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some us against the world comments from Colorado. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by LinkedIn. Let me tell you about LinkedIn. If you or your small business are hiring, this is a perfect place to find a qualified candidate. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for your role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys again for supporting. Let's dive right into what Deion Sanders Jr. said, because this is a mindset that I know everyone's had about Colorado, but I think this last week or so has only shown it to a more extent. So when talking about the sorry about that. Didn't realize my mic was muted. Let's dive right back into what I was saying. Deion Sanders Jr., just in case you guys missed it, Deion Sanders Jr. talked about how it's Colorado against the world. He was saying that when people watch them lose, there's they get excited. There's this weird narrative around Coach Prime telling the band that they can't play, and people hated on him for that. And so he said, whatever people believe in, that's where spirituality comes in. You got to stay prayed up. You got to stay this and that because it's daily attacks. And that's why you try to get the team to understand because, bro, this is bigger than football. We not only playing against CSU, you're playing against the world. The world wants you to fail or wants to see you fail. And he's right. The world does want to see them fail. And right now, Colorado is backed into a corner. And I think this is where we find out how mentally tough they are, how prepared they are, how prepared the coaches are. Because honestly, the coaches did not set them up to succeed against Nebraska. They didn't set them up to succeed against North Dakota State. So a lot has gone wrong for Colorado. So this is a all hands on deck, all effort sort of game here where it's like everyone needs to be on their P's and Q's. Otherwise, you will lose this game. And losing this game will be detrimental to the momentum that they've built around the program. Like they have a lot of energy around the program. They have a lot of attention on the program, a lot of buzz. This erases all that. This diminishes that because it's like at that point, people don't care. Like people are going to stop caring about this Colorado team if they can't win games. That's just the cold hard truth. Obviously on Locked On Buffs, we'll keep you guys covered. But the national media is looking for a reason to talk about Colorado in a negative light because they want a lot of people. Paul Feinbaum himself has said that he wants this little story to end, or this little storybook, I believe is what he called it. Like people want the Colorado narrative to die down. They are tired of it. So it really is Colorado against the world. And if that motivates them, great. If it shouldn't motivate them, I think you should be motivated by wanting to win football games, wanting to take your career to the next level. But if that's what you need to motivate yourself to win a football game, then albeit go out there and win that game because that pressure is going to be coming in hot. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to every single episode of Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. This has been another episode of Locked On Buffs. Tomorrow, I will have a preview of the Colorado State game. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. I know it's been an interesting ride this week, and Colorado's got a big one this weekend. Let's see how they do.